Hey guys, this is Booligan with Airsoft Retreat, BooliganAirsoft.com, and Airsoft Insider Magazine. Today we're going to take a look at a real steel product that I think has an application in airsoft. We'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end. This is my real steel, aka my WASR-10, that is fitted into a Center Balance Systems AK Spike X1S Bullpup chassis. As you can see, it's a bullpup. Trigger's up here, magazine's right here, action's right here. The whole thing is shortened by about 9 or 10 inches over a standard AK, giving you a total length of about 26.5 inches, while still keeping your full length barrel on the front. So this thing doesn't need to be registered as an SPR or anything like that. It's kind of a futuristic design, made almost entirely out of metal. There are a few polymer parts on it. This lower frame, for example, the butt assembly, but this is all very, very well manufactured metal. You have machined rails, and then you have this cover, which acts kind of as a cheek rest and keeps your cheek off of the actual receiver of the rifle itself. Let's go ahead. Let's take a closer look at some of the features of this gun. We'll take a look at it on the table and kind of see what you got. Okay, let's look at some of the finer features of the Center Balance Systems Spike X1S chassis. Starting at the back, you'll notice your entire butt assembly has been replaced by this really short, stubby butt pad. It's made of Delrin, and it is pretty damn solid. It's mounted really solidly on there, and it's quite comfortable to shoulder. Actually, it's really not bad at all. I don't foresee any issues with this. Because it's hollow, you can throw a sling through there and use it as a one-point sling. You see your trigger assembly is covered. This is a one-piece metal assembly that covers the left side of the receiver, acts as your cheek rest, and covers the trigger assembly. It also holds the trigger bar in place, which we'll take a look at in just a bit. You still have your selector switch here on the side, obviously. That's not any different than it normally would be. The only issue is accessing it obviously is a little bit tricky. You can reach over and activate it. However, the gun has a secondary safety, which prevents the trigger from being pulled, which we'll look at on the other side. This is not a kit for left-handed users, obviously, because your face would be right here and you'd get a face full of reciprocating bolt action right to the mouth every time you fire. So lefties, you'll have to look elsewhere for a kit like this. Moving forward, you can see the attachment point. Basically, this has a little hook right here that clips over your receiver. It needs to be solid in there, otherwise you'll have issues mounting. It's also secured at the front, right about here. The bolt that goes through and is attached to the cleaning rod lug at the bottom of the gas tube. The grip panels, they're kind of an interesting material. It has kind of a rough surface and has really good grip. I mean, the thing feels pretty good in your hand. It's a funky design grip and it's very blocky, but it's really not bad. If anything, I may smooth out some of the lines a little bit down the line, but overall, I pretty much like how it works. You've got rails located, continuous top rail, side rails. Everything's marked appropriately as it would be. Right, left, bottom. Top is unmarked. On some of the earlier models, the top rail was 2 pieces. This is now a 1-piece rail, and it has the markings on it for Center Balance Systems. The other thing that you'll notice, you've got all these nice ventilation holes throughout. This thing has great heat management. It shouldn't get too hot with firing because it has a lot of air channels basically to let the air flow through. One thing to note, you will need to supply sights or an optic of some sort because the existing sights, while they still are there, they are far too low to be used. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other side so we can show you kind of the details of the controls. Okay, on the left side of the gun, it's basically mirrored version of the right side, at least with the chassis. The only difference is that you'll notice you have this safety switch located here. Simple mechanical safety, it just prevents the trigger from being pulled. The front of this, you'll notice you've got this large Delrin spacer in the front. Makes adding any flash hiders to this tricky. You'll have to drill that out basically if you're going to go with a large flash hider at the front, but it still is certainly doable. Also, you'll notice this whole large wraparound piece. This is basically what protects your cheek, and it also is what covers the trigger mechanism. We can go ahead and take one of the included tools. And I'll show you guys what the trigger mechanism, how it works. A lot of these kits use a really flimsy trigger mechanism. It's either like a cable or just a piece of rod. With this one, you've got this, basically this big chunk of metal, goes all the way back. It's mounted here at the front, and it goes here, and you can adjust it for your specific trigger unit for take-up and everything else. Has cutouts to clear the rivet and to clear the side mount plate, so you don't have to get rid of those pieces, which is really nice. How the trigger works and the issues that I had with the trigger in the beginning, a lot of people have reported trigger issues with these kits. I had the same thing. Basically, the trigger was super stiff and it would not return on its own. There's no separate spring system in this trigger unit. It relies entirely on the spring from your actual trigger unit that the gun comes with. So tolerances on this were very tight, and this is an issue that you'll see with pretty much every AK kit. It's advertised as being drop-in. Nothing is drop-in with AKs. AKs are made so many different specs, and it's basically impossible to find something that will work exactly the same with one as it would with another. So what I had to do on the block up here, I had to countersink. So I was using a drill bit. I countersunk the two screw holes that mount this trigger bar to the trigger shuttle, and brought it down a little bit, sanded everything smooth, and then on the backside, there's a Delrin block that the trigger actuates on. I had to sand just the backside just a little bit, and now I have, you know, it's very smooth. Obviously, without this being held in place, the trigger action is very smooth, and you get very little flex, and there's almost no take up. I mean, it's as soon as you do that, you start actuating the actual trigger unit. Let's go ahead and button this back up, and I'll show you which magazines work with this and issues that you may come across with certain magazines. One thing that I really like about this kit is the fact that due to this design, you can still field strip it, and this is going to be a little bit tricky at this angle, but let's see if we can pull it off here. Still field strip it. Let's rotate it a little bit. With the kit in place. You don't have to take the kit off to get your gun, you know, clean, stripped, and everything else. Buttoning it up takes a little bit more effort, but you can still do it with the shield in place. And for further maintenance, all you have to do is really just take that shield off, which is just 2 screws. So really, really easy kit to continue to work on your gun with the kit installed. Okay, we've got 2 examples of AK magazines. We've got a Romanian steel unit and a Tapco polymer unit. The Romanian unit fits in just fine. There was an earlier issue with these hitting the bottom, but with this one, I mean, it clears just fine, and it locks back in, no issues. Magazine changes, aside from the fact that this magazine is very stiff, are basically like normal. You can quickly change it out. If it's being, I don't like this magazine. It works, it feeds really well, but I don't like the look. This is my magazine of choice. It's a Tapco unit, polymer, and I had to sand the front of it a little bit to get it to clear. But it gets in there, but magazine changes are a little tough. You have to kind of, you know, give it a little bit of a wiggle to get it out. So basically it's something that I'm not 100% pleased with, and it's not an issue with the design. It's, I mean, if you have a Bullpup AK magazines have to rock in. That's just how magazines mount. I will be trying a US Palm magazine. US Palm magazine has this little cutout here in the front, and I think that'll help clear it just a little bit more to help get that magazine out, aside from having to just yank it out. So basically for range time, it will be using you know, one of these. Anything that I'll need to actually make magazine changes, it'll be using the steel mag. But as you can see, it goes in just fine. I mean, magazine changes are an absolute breeze with this thing. Some of the other hiccups that I had when mounting the kit, at this front portion here, from this side, I had to do a little bit of Dremel work on the bottom of the gas block as well as at the top of the kit. Again, this falls into the one-size-fits-all mentality of these kits with AKs, whereas AKs are not one-size-fits-all. It wasn't allowing the barrel assembly to sit down low enough to get secured in the chassis, so I had to just do just a little bit of Dremel work inside the kit. It's something that's totally, it doesn't affect it really either way, and it's just kind of cosmetic, but it's much more solid in there. I also had to notch out the bottom of this sling mount just a few, maybe a millimeter, if that, just to clear this bottom part so that it wasn't rubbing on it. But other than that, I mean, the kit comes together really well. It's a complete kit. Just throw it in your gun. You might have to make just a few small tweaks here and there, but you're good to go. The trigger action on it, we'll make sure that we're clear here. The trigger action, you can see, it's not bad at all. You get a little bit of wiggle in the trigger because of how it's mounted, but really the trigger pull isn't bad. The only thing I run into, and it's something that'll loosen up with time, is occasionally if you pull it back all the way, occasionally the trigger can get stuck, but the recoil force should bounce it back anyways. If not, it's something I'll update in my firing test. So let's go ahead and take another look at the gun, what it costs, and how it might be able to work with airsoft. Okay, we've taken a look at some of the closer features of the Spike X1S chassis. Let's talk about what it costs and how it might be able to be used in airsoft. The kit itself costs about $310. It's not cheap, don't get me wrong. However, when you're looking at something that's basically an entire chassis for your system that converts your gun in one shebang just to an entirely different gun, $310 is not bad. It's not a bad price at all. Why I think this would work for airsoft. Because of the way that this mounts, it hooks in at the front of your receiver and is secured using the cleaning rod lug located right about here. Really, there's no reason why this wouldn't work for airsoft guns. With gas blowback rifles, it should basically be a direct bolt-on of something like the GHK AKM. It should basically be a bolt-on. It just needs to be set up as a gun that's, you know, for a full standard stock because of the stock tang on the back. For AEGs, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. I did some baseline measurements, and in something that comes with wood, wood furniture to begin with, has a stamped steel receiver, sort of like an LCT type. It should work. The front and mounting tang at the front, it looks like the front end will mount up just fine. The only tricky part is on the back end. What you're going to need to make sure is that it only has this single top stock mounting tang, and it doesn't have any block or anything like that. I tried this on my my Javelin tactical AK, and it wouldn't work because there's a large metal rectangle right here for mounting that tactical stock assembly. So I need to get my hands on an AEG that'll work with it, and we can kind of go from there as far as testing it out. The other thing with an AEG is obviously the AEG has the motor. The motor's located in the grip. The grip's located right about here. As you can see, there's no area for it. However, you could cut out a notch, which would allow this to slide over the grip, and then you could dress up the grip with plastic. It would extend out to about right here. But you could dress it up and it actually wouldn't look that bad. There's even a couple of holes on the side of this that you could use as a mounting plate for some plastic shielding for that to hide it. So basically, if you're looking at a $200 AK and a $300 kit, you could for $500 or so have a functioning and very, very unique AEG Bullpup AK, and that's honestly works really well. I really like how the thing is balanced. It's balanced very well, kind of right in the web of your hand, and you could easily hold it out and shoot it one-handed. But it does have this little stubby grip here, so it lets you get kind of a grip up there. You can rest your thumb on the rail, and it points very, very well, much better than the AK before. So overall, I really like this platform. We're going to take it out to the range in a few weeks. We'll update, we'll get a video of that. But for now, enjoy this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And as always, many thanks for checking out all of my reviews on Airsoft Retreat, BooliganAirsoft.com, and of course in Airsoft Insider Magazine. Thanks for watching.